Israel now launches devastating strikes on Iran. And the question now is, are we on the verge of an all-out Middle East war? Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, a lot, and I mean a lot to talk about today. It's going to be a jam-packed show. But without question right now, the biggest story, not just in the country, in the entire world, is the developments that took place overnight between Israel and the Islamic Republic of Iran. As was telegraphed for about a couple days now, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, i.e. Bibi, was letting it be known that his patience was running out and that he was contemplating now massive strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Within the context of peace talks and negotiations between Iran and the United States, where both sides had hit an impasse. Steve Witkoff, Trump's special negotiator for the Middle East, his special envoy, wants no nuclear enrichment whatsoever, but being conducted by the Iranians. They have multiple nuclear facilities. They claim it's for civil purposes only civilian purposes. In reality, as everybody knows, they are trying to get to enrichment levels so they can develop the bomb. Iran is not willing to give America access to these enrichment facilities, and they are not willing to stop enrichment, and so they were at an absolute impasse and standstill. Trump kept telling the Iranians over and over again, you're going to force the hand of Israel. Make a deal with me, you can avoid war. The mullahs kept saying no, no, no. And finally, last night, Bibi pulled the trigger. He addressed the Israeli nation. He addressed the world, saying now Israel is at war with Iran. He has now ordered what is called Operation Rising Lion. And from the initial reports, it's only about 6 or 8 hours that this campaign has now begun. At least preliminary reports show it is a wide-ranging, sweeping, and devastating first wave of attacks that Israel has launched upon Iran. Over 200 Israeli warplanes are pounding key nuclear targets, key military facilities, oil refineries in Tehran, the capital of Iran, as well as other facilities across the country. Furthermore, Mossad has now penetrated Iran. Apparently this operation was in the works for months, and they were able to smuggle in assassins as well as explosive drones. They have unleashed these explosive drones on top Iranian military leaders. And right now they have punched a massive hole in Iran's military leadership. The head of Iran's Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Hossein Salami, one of the most, if not the most important figure in Iran's military leadership, is dead. He was killed either in a drone strike or assassinated. We're getting conflicting reports, but even the Iranian state-run media has confirmed Salami is dead. Key generals are dead. The head of the Iranian military is dead. Iranian nuclear scientists, their top scientists, have been assassinated or killed in devastating strikes. They have been wiped out. And so, Iran's military and nuclear leadership has been effectively decapitated. Iran now is vowing all-out retaliation. Iran is not Iraq, and Israel understands that. They're a nation of 70 million. They have a very large navy. And most importantly, they have proxies, terrorist cells all over the Middle East, including here in the United States of America. Iran now has launched counter-drone strikes against Israel. Israel so far says they're able to shoot many of them down, but Iran vows this is just the beginning. I want you to listen now to Bibi Netanyahu. This is in English. A lot of his speech was in Hebrew, but he switched to English. And this, he's now talking to America and to the world, announcing Operation Rising Lion. And he says, this is not a one and done. These strikes, this massive air and assassination campaign is going to go on for days and days and days. Roll cut 6, a mic.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat.
Now, the question is this: why now? Why now? And according to Israel, and according to Israeli intelligence, they claim that Iran now was literally weeks away from attaining enough nuclear fissile material to attain the nuclear bomb. In other words, that's called the breakout phase. That they had enough enrichment and enough material that if they wanted to, they could develop their own nuclear bomb, maybe attach it to a ballistic missile. And Israel said that is not a risk or a chance they're willing to take. Remember, the regime in Tehran openly and explicitly calls for the annihilation, the destruction of the state of Israel. As well, by the way, the destruction of the United States and the West. And so, a fanatical, medieval Islamist regime, like that in Tehran, a terrorist state with a nuclear bomb, could create, my God, untold havoc, untold death, untold destruction. And so Netanyahu apparently spoke with Trump. This was several days ago, and said, this is a risk, this is a line I cannot allow Iran to cross. We are going to go and go in hard. Now, Trump apparently gave Israel the green light. However, we are not involved in this strike. I mean, yes, Trump is supporting them. Yes, he's giving him the green light. But we are not, according to Marco Rubio, according to Trump. This is an Israeli operation, a unilateral operation that they are running now on their own, and this will go on until they have utterly destroyed and degraded Iran's ability to build a nuclear weapon, and their nuclear program will be in absolute tatters. Listen now to Netanyahu saying, we're not going to stop until the program is smashed. Roll cut 6A, Mike.
For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival.
In private, he was saying weeks. In this speech, he said, within months. Privately, I'm just going by the reporting that I've read. He told Trump, we think they're about 3-4 weeks away now. They could literally put together some kind of a nuclear bomb and then put it on a missile or use it in a suitcase or whatever. And so the Mossad, their intelligence people in Iran, were telling them basically it's now or never. So the question now is, what should the United States do, if anything? The consequences now are clear. This is going to lead to a wider Mideast war. Iran has proxies in Lebanon, Hezbollah. They have proxies, obviously, with Hamas. They have proxies with the Houthis in Yemen. They also have terrorist cells all over the entire region. This is why, over the last 4 to 5 days, President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio have ordered American staff and non-essential personnel to evacuate American embassies and consulates across the entire region. My fear, and it's just a fear, and this is what Trump and Rubio are worried about as well, is that Iran will respond, as they said last night, whether America says they support it or not, whether America says Israel acted alone or not, we hold America responsible for this. Will Iran lash out by launching terrorist attacks against American targets, American troops, God forbid, activate terrorist cells here in the United States? That is now the question. Your calls, your reaction, next. 6:18 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you. Do you support Israel's decision to launch these massive, wide-ranging, and what appears to be devastating airstrikes, as well as these covert drone and assassination strikes within Iran? Do you think it was inevitable? Do you think Israel could have waited longer, or do you think they had every right to do it now? So in other words, do you support what Israel is now doing and will continue to do over the next couple of days? Now, furthermore, and to me, as an American, of course I wish Israel the best, no question. But as an American, I'm looking out for our interests and our people. And one of my big fears, as I mentioned in my opening monologue, is that under Biden, he so opened up the border, he was so reckless and irresponsible that he allowed millions and millions and millions of illegal aliens and foreigners to literally just pour into our country completely unvetted. We know for a fact, because our own intelligence community has confirmed it, that Hezbollah sleeper cells were allowed to come into the United States under Biden. As you know, Iran arms and funds Hezbollah. They are a major proxy of the mullahs in Tehran. So the fear is, and this is why people are on pins and needles, if this thing between Israel and Iran gets ugly, and it's already getting very bad, but if this becomes an all-out war, Iran has openly said they will activate every terrorist, every network, every cell, and a lot of Americans are going to die. They're going to launch terrorist attacks here in the United States, spilling blood on American soil. They are going to target our consulates, our embassies, our military bases all across the Middle East. Now, furthermore, and this is a very important point, the supreme leader of Iran yesterday, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who runs, remember, it's a theocracy. It's an Islamist, fundamentalist theocracy. He's the one who ultimately calls the shots. He's the quote-unquote supreme leader. He has come out and said two things. That now it is a fight to the death with the Zionists, i.e. Israel, and that he blames America for the attack. He says, you can claim in public, this is what he said, you can claim you had nothing to do with it. You can claim this was an Israeli operation made by Netanyahu and the Israelis on their own. We don't believe you. And as far as the Iranian regime is concerned, we will hold you responsible for what's happening. So, the danger is, as I said to Grace last night, we now could get sucked into this war, whether we like it or not. If our embassies get attacked, if there's a repeat, if you remember in 1982, when our Marine barracks were blown up and scores of American soldiers were killed. So there's a real possibility now of massive terrorist retaliation, both abroad against U.S. personnel, U.S. diplomats, U.S. troops, our men and women, and here in the homeland. Apparently now, I'm just going by multiple media reports, Trump has now ordered the FBI, they're launching a massive counter-terror investigation, a monitoring campaign, because they fear that there are Hezbollah sleeper cells in the United States, and that now they could be activated, and God knows what kind of damage they could do, especially in light of what's happening tomorrow with this nationwide so-called Day of Defiance, with this No Kings, No Crowns protest, as they're now calling it, which is going to be at about 1,500 towns, cities, sites all around the country. So this is an incredibly perilous moment. Now, let me throw one final log on the fire, and then I want to open up the phone lines. 617-266-6868. According now to what the media is reporting, the United States negotiators, the negotiation team, the negotiators, essentially had lulled the Iranians to sleep because they were talking about peace, about ending the weapons program, about coming to a deal, about, the negotiations. And so the mullahs kept thinking the whole time, well, as long as the Americans are talking, Israel is not going to act. So in a sense, the Iranians let their guard down. And that's when Bibi said their air defenses are low. We've smashed the Hezbollah. We have smashed Hamas. The Houthis now have been really devastated in Yemen. Their proxies now are being rolled back. This is the time to hit Iran. If we're going to knock out their nuclear program, it's now. And so, as they were lulled essentially to let their guard down in talks with Trump over ending their nuclear program permanently, that's when Bibi decided to unleash the Israeli Air Force and the Mossad within Iran itself. Listen now to President Trump. This was just yesterday, saying, I want a diplomatic deal. I don't want it to come to war. I don't want Israel to hammer Iran. I don't want to risk a major war in the Middle East. I don't want to launch strikes against Iran myself or the United States. I want a deal. Roll, cut, 5, Mike.
I want to have an agreement with Iran. We're fairly close to an agreement. We are fairly close to a pretty good agreement. It's got to be better than pretty good, though, but it's got to be, I'd much prefer an agreement. As long as I think there is an agreement, I don't want them going in because I think that would blow it. Might help it, actually, but it also could blow it. But we've had very good discussions with Iran. Whether or not we get there, I can't tell you, but it'll happen soon. I say this, Peter, very strongly. They can't have, whether it's going in or not going in, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I'd prefer the more friendly path.
Now, this is a lot of MAGA supporters are mad at Bibi, saying that by launching this massive air campaign and this wave of bombings across Iran, targeting their facilities, that this essentially has sabotaged the peace talks and the negotiations between the United States and Iran. That Trump, they argue, could have had a diplomatic deal with Iran that would not have escalated tensions to where it is now, with the possibility of an all-out Middle East war. I'm curious, where do you stand on this? Do you support Israel, or should they have waited? 634 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day. sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Did Iran ever intend to make a nuclear deal? What many of you are pointing out on the text line, by the way, you can text us 70470, 70470. You're emailing the Kuhner Man, messaging the Kuhner Man. You're saying, Jeff, the Iranians were just playing us the whole time. They were just playing us for fools. This, by the way, was going to be the 6th round of talks scheduled to start in a couple of days in Rome, in Italy. No, I'm sorry. They moved it to Oman. My bad. It was in Rome, Italy. But anyway, it was going to be the 6th round of talks. And by the last couple of rounds, it was clear there was a clear impasse, complete gridlock. Our position, Trump's position, through his envoy Steve Witkoff, was zero enrichment of uranium. Period. Stop. Full stop. We don't want you enriching any more uranium. You have to stop completely and open up all of your sites to inspections. The Iranians basically said, as they put it, this is a non-negotiable. We are going to continue to enrich uranium, and we're just promising you that we're going to keep it for civilian purposes and not for, to be weaponized, to be used for a nuclear bomb or a nuclear weapon. So talks, in some sense, had really ground to a halt. But again, many of you think the Iranians were never serious. They were using negotiations as a ploy to continue their secret nuclear weapons program. Hence, Israel had no choice but to hit him now and hit him really hard. Agree, disagree. So, did Iran ever intend to make a nuclear deal with Trump? In other words, a genuine diplomatic deal. A, yes, they were serious about a deal. B, no, they were never serious about a deal. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X, and I'm very active again last night. I was very active on X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Okay, I'm going to open it up. Let's unleash the hounds, Mike. Let me ask you, Israel goes for Iran's throat. They have now launched a massive wave of airstrikes. This is going to go on for days. They are pounding nuclear military facilities and positions all across Iran. Iran says now they are going to hit Israel with everything they have. We are on the verge of a Mideast war, a regional war. Did Israel do the right thing? Do you support Israel? And do you fear the blowback to us and our troops in the Middle East or to us here on the homeland? 617-266-6868. Michael in Charlestown. Thanks for holding, Michael, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Michael?
Long-time listener. Good. Very good. Long-time listener.
Welcome, Michael.
So where I stand and where I think a lot of people who support Trump stand on this is I believe that this time around Trump is really trying to do the right thing. I think maybe
Michael, for some
term,
reason, you're very muffled. You got to speak right into the phone, my friend.
I'm trying to. Sorry. Give me one. Hello. Sorry. So,
okay, go ahead, Michael.
I think Trump is trying to do the right thing this time. I think his first term, obviously he didn't know what he was getting himself into. I think as much as we all, supported him and loved him, and I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into. I think he, in his first term, was possibly owned, maybe bought off by Israel. This time around, I think he's just playing the cards, the best way he can. I think that Israel obviously is very powerful. A lot of allegations against them over the years for, how they get their power, why they get their power is, not irrelevant, but it's, let's say, I don't know, a lot of people morals, I guess, are just, not really forward.
I hear you. There's a lot of criticisms of Israel, but Michael, I'm just curious. They're pounding Tehran right now. They're at war. Iran and Israel are at this is a war now, all-out war. Did Israel do the right thing, or do you think they should have waited?
I think they should have waited, but I don't think that was their plan. I think their plan was to, obviously attack Iran. Bibi is facing so much, he's facing so much in his own country. I think that he's holding on to power, as long as he can, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get that power, and he's willing to take down the whole world if he loses it. And I think that he's using the U.S. just like he's been using the U.S. for the last 30 years to get what he wants, and he's going to force us into a war with Iran that's just going to destroy another couple of generations of Americans. I think this is something that we need to stay out of, and Trump can come out and say that he's, Iran is kind of right when Iran says, we don't believe you when you come out and says that you weren't about it, because Trump did get how much, $100 million from Mayor Madison? He could be bought off this time by Israel. I think he's trying to get away from them because I think he's realizing that a lot of his base is kind of against, not really Israel, but kind of just against Bibi and just against the way Israel has sucked us into all their wars in the Middle East. And I think a lot of his base is starting to wake up to that. And I think he's going to do the right thing. I hope he does the right thing and he gets as far away from Israel as possible, even though they are, our ally. But I think this is something that we need to stay away from.
That's where I agree with you. I think we need to stay out of it. Look, I think we have to worry about, we got so many problems here at home. Like, my God, the last thing we need now is a massive war in the Middle East. Fighting Iran and all of their proxies. This would derail all of Trump's presidency. And I don't think the country even has an appetite or the stomach for a war with Iran. So if Israel wants to go out there, I get it from their point of view, obviously. If I was an Israeli, I wouldn't want the Iranians to get a nuclear bomb. No question about it. So if the Israelis want to go and hammer them, that's their business. But we got to focus. Look, we've got an insurrection right here, right now. We got problems dealing with all the illegals in our own country. We need another war in the Middle East like we need a hole in the head. Michael, thank you for that call. 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Just very quickly, I want to read one text, which I do agree with. Look, generally, if I'm living in Israel, the last thing I want are these crazed mullahs getting their hands on a nuclear bomb. So please don't get me wrong, okay? But to me, my bigger concern now is that we could potentially get sucked or dragged into this war. And if the Iranians, or through Hezbollah, or through the Houthis, or through one of their other terrorist proxies, if they bomb an American consulate, or God forbid, target one of our bases and take out some of our fighting men and women, or here in the homeland. Again, this is why ultimately I blame Joe Biden. He has opened us up like you wouldn't believe. And all it takes is a couple of well-placed bombs. And you can see dead Americans right here. And if that happens, that could drag us into the war. So that's why, to me, everything's on a razor's edge right now. Now, look, as a texter put it, this is from 703. Jeff, Iran armed and funded Hamas. Iran armed and funded Hezbollah. And do you know who funded Iran? Obama and Joe Biden. And I think that's pretty much the predicament that we're in. I see all of these liberals and leftists last night on social media. Oh, this is now on Trump's watch. This never happened under Biden. Oh, Israel and Iran are going to war. And I'm like, yeah, October 7th? No, when Hamas hit Israel and slaughtered over 1,200 Israeli women, men and children, women and children and elderly and defenseless men. No? So who gave them the green light? Who armed them? Who supported them? Who trained them? Who funded them? It was Iran. So ever since October 7th, 2023, after that heinous terrorist atrocity, Iran and Israel have been on a collision course. It was almost inevitable that they were now going to come to blows and go to war. And all of this, who funded Iran? Biden. Who enabled Iran to build up its military and fund its terrorist armies all over the world? Biden. Who was the one that turned a blind eye as Iran built up its nuclear weapons program month after month after month? Biden. So my point is, we're living with the consequences of the Biden years. Whether it's the massive invasion at the border, and now we're seeing it with all these riots, whether you're seeing it now in the Middle East. So, Trump inherited an absolute mess. A mess. And as he said, I'm just trying to fix it. Now, if the mullahs don't want to make a deal, and I think Trump told them, or through Witkoff, and Rubio told him, I think 1,000 times, guys, it's either my way or Bibi's way. And I'm telling you, Bibi is itching to take you guys out. So either we go to the diplomatic table, no nuclear enrichment for you, and this all ends. And we'll lessen the sanctions, and we'll start normalizing relations a little bit. And you guys, if you want, you can have a functioning, society and a decent economy for your people. But if you keep going down the path of attaining the bomb, Bibi will not allow it to happen. Period. Full stop. Well, they didn't listen. It was all bluster, name-calling. They're going to annihilate Israel. They're going to annihilate America. The guy who's dead now, the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Hossein Salami, gave a speech. This was just yesterday. It was one of the last, the last speech he ever gave. And our army's ready, our military's ready, death to Israel, death to America, we're going to bring them down. I'm like, okay, keep talking. I don't know what else to say. Keep shooting your mouth off. Well, now you're dead. So Iran had the prospect for peace. Trump gave them the olive branch over and over and over again, and they spit in his face. And Trump, I think it was just a couple days ago, he said, look, you guys are probably going to get hit. He even said it. He kind of blurted it out. He goes, there could be strikes. This is your last chance. Really, I'm trying to tell you guys. Sit down, make a deal, and we can avoid a war. Well, they didn't want to make a deal because I believe in the end the mullahs are committed to getting the bomb. They want that bomb at all costs. And now they are paying, a massive price. The only question now is the consequences. There's no walking this back now. Israel, for good or for ill, I'm just stating the facts. Israel has now crossed the Rubicon. They've gone all in. They're trying to topple the regime. They are decimating Iran's military. They're hitting targets now all over the country. So this is war. They are at war. This is from 603, and then I'm going to go right back to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeff, I'm no fan of the Iranian regime, and I've always supported Israel's right of self-protection. But there's one point I simply have to make here, and I'm sure other listeners have noticed this as well. It has been reported that Iran is only 3 weeks away from obtaining the nuclear bomb for the last 24 years. My God, Netanyahu has trotted out that same claim literally since he testified before Congress just after 9/11. That's one hell of a long 3 weeks. It is my contention, and the contention of many others, that Iran has had nuclear weapons in their possession for quite a few years now. Really interesting. Again, I have no issues with Israel taking action against that evil regime in Iran. But that line of justification is getting a little old, in my opinion. If only I had a dime for every time that excuse has been trotted out, I wouldn't have to play the Powerball. Laugh out loud. Now, I do have to say this. Bibi has been claiming this, it's imminent. The Iranians are on the verge of a nuke. They're about to get the bomb. They're 2 months away, 3 months away, 6 months away, 3 weeks away. To be fair, he has been saying this now for a very, very long time. Now, I believe him this time. Maybe I'm being naive or gullible. Only because the IAEA recently said, no, they're lying about their nuclear enrichment. They've caught the Iranians saying, no, they have an illicit program, they're hiding it from us, and these are levels of enrichment that go way beyond the civilian program. This is only if you want a nuclear weapon. So when the International Atomic Energy Agency, that UN watchdog group, literally said, no, Iran lied to us, and they're hiding facilities, and we've caught these hidden facilities. So I'm like, nah, they're let's put it this way, they're clearly at an advanced stage in terms of the possibility of getting the bomb, or maybe they already have it, but if they have it, they're going to use it. So I hope they don't have it. And I think Mossad would know if they had it. So, but anyway, I don't want to get lost in the weeds here. My point is just, look, Bibi clearly now feels he's backed into a corner. He can't let Iran break out with this fissile material that they have. And so that's why he's decimating now the military leadership. He's killed off almost all of Iran's nuclear scientists. And Iran right now is vowing the mother of all retaliations. So far, they're not hitting American shipping in the Persian Gulf. Now, one last quick point. Oil has now gone up 10%. No matter what now, these strikes are going to drive up the global, it's a shock to the oil supply in the Middle East. It's destabilizing. That's just how war is. And that already now this has led to a 10% spike in oil prices. Expect that to go up even more. So if you this weekend or early next week, you're like, what happened to the price at the pump? The war between Israel and Iran. So no matter what, there's going to be consequences. As an America First patriot, I don't want Americans killed. I don't want terrorist attacks on U.S. embassies, consulates, or bases. And I don't want terrorist attacks here on innocent Americans here at home. So to me, that's my primary priority. Contain this and prevent this war from escalating and expanding. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. Brian in Hopedale. Thanks for holding, Brian, and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Kuhner.
Hi, Brian.
Hi. Okay, I wanted to point out here for a minute that amongst the Iranian young, they have their overall population is younger than us by our population by about 20 years or so. And the younger people there, they are not big fans of the regime over there. They came close to having a revolution there not too long ago, and of course, was it under Obama? I think it was. And Obama could have supported him and helped overthrow him, did nothing. It ended up being what it is today. But I think that sentiment still exists in Iran. I know that a lot of the people that come over here for school, they don't want to go back there. I think that's if this war starts escalating some, I think what you're going to see is regime change in Iran as being facilitated by the younger people there. They're going to have kind of the same thing what we got going on here. There seems to be infantiles going on all over the world, whether it's here in this country, over there. There's all kinds of insurrections now. That seems to be in vogue, and I think Iran is about to have their own.
Well, Brian, look, you're right. The younger people, and generally the Iranian people in general, are against the mullahs. Time and again, they've had big, large, huge protests and demonstrations, and there's been brutal crackdowns. And Americans have told me, there are Americans that do go to Iran occasionally, and they've told me every time they come back, they go, it's amazing. You walk on the streets of Tehran, and the people, because they can just tell, they look at someone, they go, oh, that's an American, and they will, from their cars, out of the blue, he goes, I thought, well, they're going to be hostile. He goes, no. He goes, they shout out to them, we love America. Please tell your president we love you. Please tell him the Iranian people do not support this regime. So even Americans say often that they come back and they can't believe at the local, on the ground, at the, at the street level, that the many Iranians are overwhelmingly pro-American. They are sick of the mullahs. They're sick of all this fundamentalism. And remember, they've been living under tremendous stress. Forget the oppression and the misery. Just forget all of that. But the Iranians have taken their country to war. This regime has taken them to war over and over and over and over again. And they keep giving speeches in their parliament, constantly talking about the glories of nuclear war. You talk to many Iranians, they're like, you don't understand. They want to get the bomb to unleash the end of days. That's what their theocracy teaches them. So basically, they're willing to sacrifice us, 70 million Iranians, our lives, for a final nuclear holocaust to usher in the Shiite Messiah, the 12th Imam, as they call him. So in order for him to come back, and it's the end of days, it's the final triumph of Islam on earth, according to their teachings, you have to have, the world must be engulfed in a quote-unquote ball of fire. And Israel must be wiped off the earth. The Jews must be exterminated. So Israel must be wiped out, and then the world must be engulfed in a huge ball of fire. When that happens, that will set the stage for basically I don't want to say Jesus, but their Messiah to come down to earth and then literally deliver heaven on earth. That's their prophecy. So you talk to many Iranians, they're like, yeah, who do you think gets wiped out in this nuclear ball of fire? It's us. So there's a lot of opposition, strong, I'm talking staunch opposition to this regime. The thing is, when you start bombing a country, I'm not criticizing, I'm just explaining. When you start bombing a country, for example, Tehran is reeling now. They've hit over 200 targets in Tehran. So you've got buildings on fire, you've got, the city is shaking, you've got facilities being blown up. That will either foster more opposition to the regime, or it creates nationalism, where people feel they're under attack. They're saying Israel's dropping the bombs, and it's not that they love the regime, but then their sense of Iran is under attack, our country's under attack, and then you get sort of nationalist defiance and resistance. So the question now is, how are the Iranian people going to take this? Are they going to turn on the mullahs, which is what you're saying? Or are they going to say, our country's being bombed, our buildings are being blown up, our facilities are being destroyed, and it's Israel that's doing it? And will they rally around the flag? That's the issue now. And Brian, honestly, on this, only time can tell. Only time will tell us. Brian, thank you very much for that call. Now, the other thing is to remember, again, they hit about 200 targets. It was a very successful, from a military viewpoint, it was a devastating first wave. Dozens of warplanes, Israeli fighter jets, hit over 200 targets. And they just obliterated almost everything they hit. They're now coming in wave after wave after wave. This is going to go on for at least the next 3 to 4 days. So we're just at the beginning of this war. And Iran hasn't really retaliated yet. They've launched some drone strikes, which Israel is handling. But this is just the beginning. So I think by Sunday, Monday, we're really going to know how this is playing out. 617-266-6868, just my opinion. Kiva in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Kiva, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm glad you kind of walked it back to the Biden administration, but I want to take it a little bit further back to the Obama administration. How much of the uranium that Hillary sold to the Russians made it into Iran as nuclear material? And then don't forget about the money also under the Obama administration that went, as you said, to fund Iran. That aside, I think that we have to think about this from the Israeli mindset. If we had a neighbor on our doorstep that had the ability to wipe us off the map with a nuclear weapon and is repeatedly vowed death to us, that we may think the same way the Israelis do. I mean, you're right. They come to the bargaining table, but they lie. They lie to the International Atomic Agency or whatever it was, the watchdog group. They lie. They can't be trusted because we have to believe their actions, not their words. In Israel's point of view, I think that what happened was, as you said, Bibi's up against the wall. He had to make a decision. This is now or never. So either we go with the Trump administration's plan for maybe a negotiated peace, which if we were betting is not the sure bet, or do we take the opportunity right now that we may never have again? And I think, yes, the sparking of a war is a bad thing. There's going to be people that are going to die. There's no question about it. But how many people would die if Iran succeeded in launching nuclear weapons against Israel? That would most certainly drag the world into a war or some level of what Bibi's done now is he's not only taken out their nuclear facilities, but also their command and control structure. So I think from a military standpoint, Iran is crippled. Now, you bring up another good point. What's going to happen with the Iranian people? Are they going to rally around the flag now, or are they going to go against the mullahs? I don't know the answer to that. I agree with you. Time will tell. But who do they hate more? And they may say to Americans, hey, we love America, tell your president we love you, but do they hate Israel more or do they hate the mullahs more? That will be probably the determining factor of how they're going to respond. But I think militarily, Israel's just going to keep crippling them with wave after wave. They're going to take out their ability to wage at least military war. Now, what about the peripheral terrorist stuff? I think terrorism was here already. I don't like this. I would prefer a peaceful, negotiated solution. But if the opportunity exists to remove a nuclear threat off the face of the earth, then let's take it. I mean, think about it. They're talking about genocide. They've vowed death to Israel. How many people would die in that? And they're going to, like you said, it's part of their prophecy. That's what they want. So from the Israeli perspective, now or never, we can't wait for Trump. I would like peace too. So I'll kind of leave it there, Jeff.
Well, just to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, Kivu, look, this is why the Iranian issue has bothered me for decades. And I've been talking about this for over 20 years. Look, Israel has at least 100 to 150 nuclear warheads. Okay? At least. Now, it's not a question of whether you agree or disagree. I'm just telling you as an historian. It's a question of this is the Israeli mindset. Countries have mindsets. Cultures have mindsets. Israel was formed in the wake of the Holocaust. It just was. And in the Israeli Jewish mindset, they are never going to go quietly into the gas ovens again. Never. Never. Like, people just have to understand that. So, if Iran gets, my point being, if Iran gets a nuclear bomb and decides to drop it on Israel, the Israelis are going to hit Iran with a massive nuclear strike. In other words, if we go down, we're not going down quietly this time. So you're facing the prospect of all-out nuclear war in the Middle East. That's why this is so dangerous. 718 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, trust me when I tell you this. Just keep the dial here. I'm going to update you as the news comes in. And so I just want to give you the absolute latest. And I'm going to be on top of this all morning, I promise. So here is now the absolute latest. Israel now launched more than 200 strikes. So they hit over 200 strikes. It was in 5 waves. They have taken out, now we now know how they took out the head of the Revolutionary Guard Corps. He's the top military official. Salami is his name, Hossein Salami. He apparently was killed in a bunker. So Israel is using those big, deep bunker-busting bombs. And they got his location, and it was a bunker buster, and they took him out. Now, they've also taken out 2 of Iran's top military generals, as well as their entire Air Force leadership. They have also assassinated or struck with a drone and killed most, if not all, of their senior nuclear scientists. So it appears that the initial strikes have been immensely successful in terms of destroying Iran's nuclear capability and their military infrastructure. Now, furthermore, Netanyahu now has come out, and it's been confirmed by the Israeli military, that Israel plans 14 days of operations. Initially, we thought it was going to be 2-3 days, maybe 4 days. This is going to go on now for 2 weeks. So this is going to be a relentless aerial, military, missile, drone campaign. Already now, as I'm speaking to you, the next wave of Israeli fighter jets are now pounding Iranian positions in Tehran, the capital, and in other major cities across Iran. Now, President Trump has now come out. He is urging Iran's leadership to make a deal with the United States on their nuclear program. He said now, quote, before there is nothing left. Now, what he's also said is that he has given Israel access, this is what Trump has now said, to America's most lethal military equipment. And so he's telling the Iranian mullahs, they're going to go on for 2 weeks. It is going to be relentless, ceaseless, around the clock. It is going to be fire and fury like you've never seen. You're not going to have much of a military or a country left by the time the Israelis are done. If I were you, make a deal now. The Arab states, this is just important, have come out and condemned the Israeli strikes. That was to be expected. I don't know if they're going to do anything. That's the key. Are they going to militarily ally with Iran? I don't think they will. I think many of them, like Saudi Arabia, are privately cheering this on. Publicly, for public consumption, they hate the Jews and how dare Israel do this. But privately, I know the Saudis and many Sunni states, the Sunni Muslim states, like Kuwait, like United Arab Emirates, like Qatar, don't like Iran. They're Shia and fear an Iranian bomb just as much as Israel does. So I think privately, many of the Arab states, maybe publicly will condemn it. They'll they'll flop their mouths. But privately, they're going to look the other way. But just so that you know, every single Arab state has now condemned Israel's action. Some Democrats are condemning the action as well. So far, there's complete support among Republicans. 617-266-6868. Andy in Milford. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Andy.
Hi. Hey, well, first of all, as you've hit the point earlier, these mullahs, they see themselves on a mission from God to usher in Armageddon. So, I mean, are they ever going to let go of their nuclear ambitions through negotiations? Color me skeptical on that. Now, as far as Israel's strike on Iran, I'm sort of in the camp that maybe Israel should have waited, but let that go. Where we're at on this geopolitical situation right now, Jeff, ironically, I think we need to rip a page out of Rahm Emanuel's playbook and not let a crisis go to waste. If Trump wages full economic warfare on Iran right now, given the gut punch that Israel's given them, there's a real opportunity to finally break the mullahs. And what Trump should do is he should make clear that the United States will pursue economic, not kinetic warfare. He should completely revisit what he did in his first term with isolating Iran economically. Only this time, just keep that economic boot on their neck. What that'll eventually do, Jeff, is that will finally enable the green movement in Iran to overthrow the mullahs, because most of the Iranians on the street in Iran, they want freedom. They want democracy. They don't want what they have under the mullahs. But and ultimately, the fault for all of this lies with Joe Biden and his regime. Joey. We all know what Joey did. He turned back on all the money for Iran. And what happened? All the terrorist organizations in the Middle East, they were enabled again. So we know from that Iran primarily is what's enabling the terrorists.
Oh, no question. Andy, if you don't mind, I'm up against it. I want you to finish your thought. Look, I agree with you. This goes back to Joey, to Biden, and ultimately to Obama. They funded them, they empowered them, they enabled them, and here we are. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go back to Andy, but again, forgive me, this is breaking news. As we speak, developments are coming our way fast, and I want to keep all of you as updated as possible. So, as you know, Israel, about maybe 9 hours ago, launched a wave of devastating airstrikes on Iran, targeting their top nuclear scientists, their nuclear facilities, their military installations. The initial waves of attacks have been immensely successful. It is going to go on for at least 2 weeks. Israel and Iran are now at war. They have apparently hit Natanz, which is Iran's top, the most high-profile nuclear enrichment facility. Now, in response to this, and this was my fear, Hezbollah, one of Iran's top terrorist proxy groups, has now come out and said that they are going to launch a massive retaliation against the United States. They are saying we're putting the United States on notice that your bases are not safe, your embassies and consulates are not safe, and you are not safe in your homeland. You are not safe at home. Now, this goes back to what Andy was, I think his point was brilliant, that this ultimately goes back to Biden and to Obama, who essentially gave the Iranians billions of dollars. Obama. Who empowered the Iranians? Obama. Who was the one that let them put them on the path towards the nuclear bomb? Obama. And then, of course, who let in these Hezbollah terrorists into our country, along with over 15 million, maybe 20 million even, foreigners and illegals who poured in over that open border? It was Joey Biden. Now, just to set it up for Andy, and then I want to go right back to him and all of your calls. This is my fear, and I'm not trying to be cavalier or disrespectful to anybody. I understand Israel's position. I understand other countries' position. But I'm an American. I'm America first. I have to look after our interests. And this is my fear. And you tell me if you agree or disagree. God forbid, because of Biden, one of these Hezbollah terror cells that he allowed to come in, God forbid, and this is a very real possibility. In fact, the FBI has admitted this is a very real possibility. So this is not Kuhner fear-mongering or, trying to get people all whipped up. This is a very real consequence of what is happening right now. What if, God forbid, Hezbollah launches, a terrorist attack? They detonate a bomb, or they shoot up a shopping mall, and they hit Boston, or any of these sanctuary cities. They hit L.A., they hit New York City. Take your pick, Chicago. And you've got dead Americans now. If you can just imagine the image and the scenes in retaliation for what Israel is doing against Iran. And you've got 8, 10, 12, 15, whatever the number is. Body parts everywhere, blood spilled. Now, the American people, whether we like it or not, are going to demand revenge. Whether Trump wants to keep us out of a war is almost irrelevant. Public opinion is going to demand that he must respond and retaliate. Why? You cannot allow your citizens to be blown up with impunity. Number one. Number two, they're going to want to send Iran a message. Don't do it. You don't do it again, because if you allow them to do it once, they're going to keep hitting you with all these terrorist bombings. So, Trump is going to be forced to have to hit Iran. He can't just do economic sanctions or maximum diplomatic pressure. Once Americans start dying, especially on American soil, but maybe even abroad, he's going to have to hit them militarily. And that's how you get sucked into a massive war in the Middle East. So this is my fear, that, we may want to stay on the sidelines. Yes, we may just say we're not involved, as Rubio said. This is between Israel and Iran. But events have a way of spiraling out of control. And so, let me ask all of you, are you concerned, are you worried that this war between Israel and Iran could now cascade and lead to terrorist attacks either on our soldiers abroad or American personnel abroad at embassies or consulates, or God forbid, here in the United States of America? In other words, are we on the verge of an all-out war? 617-266-6868. And what should Trump do? And what should we do? Andy, I want to go right back to you. You were making the point, Trump now needs to follow up with what Israel has done, not with, as you put it, with a military strike or a kinetic strike, as you put it, but with a huge economic embargo on Iran. hit them with economic sanctions, economic maximum pressure to squeeze that regime and eventually force the Green Movement to topple the mullahs from power. Please, Andy, pick up where you left off.
Yes. See, if we pursue that path, Jeff, that will be a signal to the Iranians on the street in Iran that we're with them with getting rid of that Islamo-fascist regime that they've really wanted to get rid of for decades. And my concern, Jeff, is if we respond kinetically, that death and destruction may have the unintended consequence of actually turning that Green Movement against us. That could actually drive them to rally around their own flag in the wrong way. That's the major component I'm seeing there. Now, there's a domestic component of this also, Jeff, that needs to be addressed here in the United States. These sanctuary state and sanctuary city policies have to go. Every leader, state and local, whose policies has enabled this invasion, they've got to go. And you know, specifically for us here in Massachusetts, as events are going to play out, Jeff, going into 2026, I believe the conditions are going to be right for us to really take it to the moonbats in this state in 2026.
Oh, I agree. Andy, I really agree. And Andy, not just here, I think around the country. I think there could be a bloodbath, a political bloodbath in the midterms for the Democrats. And I think, Andy, you touched on it, and it's a very good point. Look at the domestic opposition to Trump. Now that war is broken out between Israel and Iran, all these anti-Semites in the Democratic Party, all these Jew haters on the radical left, how soon is it before, it's not just the Palestinian flag and the Ukrainian flag and the Mexican flag. How soon is it that we start to see the Iranian flag being waved by protesters? 750 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me open it up completely. Okay, let's put it all on the table. Now that Israel has launched this devastating wave of strikes, and they now say it's going to go on for 2 weeks, Operation Rising Lion, where they say they are going to completely destroy Iran's nuclear weapons program and decapitate their military. And we'll see now what Iran's response is going to be. They are now vowing all-out war against Israel and the United States. What should Trump do? Trump has now come out and said he's urging the Iranians, go back to the negotiating table, make a deal now with him and Steve Witkoff, his envoy, to end Iran's program, or there'll be, quote, nothing left of your country. In other words, Israel is going to reduce Iran to rubble. Should Trump stick to this path that he's now on, which essentially is let Bibi and Israel do its thing and present himself as the person who wants the diplomatic solution? Should he just stay out completely? Should we be neutral in this conflict? Or should we go all in and back Israel? Should the United States join Israel in this attack on Iran and go for all-out regime change? In other words, the goal should not just be to degrade and destroy their nuclear weapons program, but to topple the mullahs from power once and for all. Agree, disagree, what say you? 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Bob in Boston. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Hey, buongiorno, paisan.
Bob, how are you, my friend?
I'm well, thank you. Yeah, it's a very scary situation, and I think Israel gets the benefit of the doubt, especially after what you mentioned earlier, after October 7th and what happened to them. They shouldn't wait around for anything to happen to them ever again. They get the benefit of the doubt as far as I'm concerned, and we should back them. But like I said, Trump is doing the right thing, just sort of play middle of the ground. But yeah, they shouldn't sit around. I have the utmost respect for them. Just after what happened to them, it's just I would hate to see something like that happen to them again. And I can understand wanting to strike first.
Bob, do you fear blowback from the Iranians to us? Say, we have a lot of bases in the Middle East, a lot of troops there. I know Trump has done a good job evacuating all the non-essential staff from a lot of our consulates and embassies, but we still have diplomatic personnel. And so they're also exposed. Do you fear that the Iranians, through their terrorist proxies, could, launch a terrorist attack or, bomb one of our facilities and kill Americans abroad, or God forbid, even launch a terrorist attack here?
Like I said, it's a very serious and scary situation, and I'm just glad we have someone like President Trump at the helm. It makes me feel a little bit better, but it's still a scary situation. You don't know what other countries and other leaders are thinking and what their goals are. But I think he could use this to his advantage, especially in the threat, especially in the wake of this new threat that I think you just said was just a current threat that Hezbollah vowed to attack us in the United States. Is that something that came from their leadership?
That came right from their leadership. So that's what I mean. The war is expanding now almost now they haven't done anything. It's all still talk, but it's kind of hard to walk this back. In other words, when you have people coming out with official statements saying, okay, well, now we're going to do this and now we're going to do that. So Hezbollah now has officially declared war, not just on Israel, but on the United States. Iran now has declared war on Israel and the United States. So this is what I mean. It's almost like by the minute this thing is escalating. And Trump is playing it very cool, as you put it, right down the middle. He's coming out saying, look, you're getting destroyed in front of the world's eyes. You're getting destroyed. And there's going to be nothing left. So make a deal with me now. You make a deal with me now, you can still escape with your regime intact. But if not, who knows how this is going to end. So Trump is basically saying, let Israel drop the hammer and he'll offer them the diplomatic exit ramp to some kind of a deal, an overall negotiated deal to end their nuclear program. But the thing with the mullahs, Bob, and I'll give you the final word, I promise. The thing about the mullahs over the last 45 years that they've been in power, and if I'm going to bare my soul to you, as I said to Mike during the break, okay, like in the confessional, that's why I hate Jimmy Carter. That's why I can't stand Jimmy Carter. I was a young boy. I mean, I was 10 years old. And I'll never forget those images. They haunt me till the day I die of our American men and women, diplomats, being held hostage by these Islamist savages in Tehran after they toppled the Shah. And how Carter pulled the plug on the Shah. I mean, just abandoned him. And whatever you think about, the Shah of Iran, he was a great American ally. He was actually very good for Iran. I mean, yeah, he was a dictator. I'm not saying the guy was, Jefferson on the Persian Gulf. I'm not saying that. But they had a modern military. They had modern science and technology. They had a modern growing economy. I mean, Iran was becoming a real oasis in the Middle East. And these Islamists just grew stronger and stronger in the 60s and 70s. Khomeini, the one that led the revolution, was in exile in Paris. And he was directing all this in a clandestine way. And the Shah now had to put down this Islamist uprising. And Carter wouldn't give him the aid. Carter wouldn't give him weapons. Carter wouldn't give him the military assistance he requested. Carter wouldn't give him the money. He just abandoned him. I mean, just left the Shah twisting in the wind. And so the Shah ended up abandoning Iran. He had to come to the United States. And that's when these savages took over. And we've been living now in the shadow of this Islamic Republic, this Islamo-Nazi regime for the last 45 years. And it's all because of Jimmy Carter. I mean, I know people are saying Biden and Obama, and everything is true. But if you really want to get to the root cause, it was Jimmy, the peanut farmer. And I'm telling you, as an 11-year-old boy, I was celebrating Ronald Reagan's victory. And if you notice, the very day that Reagan was inaugurated, the very day is when Iran sent all the hostages home. That's how little they thought of Jimmy Carter. They had such contempt for him. Even after Reagan won, they said, no. As long as Carter is still in the White House during that 3-month transition from November to January of 1981, they said, no, we're not sending the hostages back. Blank you. I mean, it was pure humiliation for the United States on every level. But now we've been living in the shadow of what Jimmy Carter did now for 45, almost 46 years now. And you could see it coming. Of course they were going to go for the bomb. They wanted the bomb from the beginning. And look how much the world has paid for what Jimmy Carter did. So, honestly, a part of me is like, go, Bibi. You take these mullahs out. Now, I don't know if Israel can do it. You know, it's as I said to Grace last night, it's hard to overthrow a regime by air power alone. It's almost impossible. Unless you're willing to commit ground troops. But Israel is not going to commit ground troops. Because that's going to be a land war, and that's Israel could get really, really hurt. I mean, their army could be smashed. Because Iran has so many more forces. I mean, they're a country of 70 million people. They fought an 8-year war against Iraq. I mean, they could go on and fight a war forever. So, long story short, Bob, the question now that Trump and Bibi have to determine, and I think they're going to have to determine this really in the next 3 or 4 days, do we just go for the nuclear program? Or do we go for the whole enchilada, as they say? Do we go for all-out regime change? And that's where our CIA comes in. Can our CIA mobilize enough domestic opposition, the so-called Green Movement in Iran? And if they can get enough Iranians to go to the streets, then the mullahs are in big trouble and they may fall. But if not, remember, my fear is this. Once Israel hits them, and doesn't take out the leadership of Iran, the mullahs stay in power. You know the expression, you go for the king, you go for the king's head. Iran's going to be like a wounded serpent. They're unpredictable, they're ruthless, they're vicious, and you back a country or these animals into a corner, they're going to lash out. And that could be terrorist attacks here in America. It may be irrational, but you're not dealing with irrational leadership. A final word to you, Bob.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. You're absolutely correct when you talk about Jimmy Carter. It's funny you mention that. Just for the record, I served in the Army, and I was stationed over in Beirut. I got deployed there, Beirut, Lebanon. They called it a peacekeeping mission, but didn't seem very peaceful to me at the time. But anyways, that's just a side thought. But yeah, that, you can look back and see that's where a lot of terrorism started, back under that Jimmy Carter presidency, and it's just, you can look back, there was a harbinger of things to come in the future. But yeah, hopefully President Trump, I'm just glad we have him in power at this time. And like I said, I trust his judgment. He's a strong leader, and I think they respect that. And I hope that, like I said, with the stuff coming up this weekend, all these protests that are planned, hopefully he can use this to his advantage, especially where the Hezbollah just made that threat against us, and explain to the people that this is why he's going in to get a lot of these illegals out. We have a serious problem here, and we should seriously fear that a Hezbollah attack, like you said, in Boston, in New York, in Chicago, Los Angeles. This is the reason why he's going out, because we don't know who's here.
Bingo. 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 And Bob, as always, thank you for your service. You know I love you vets and all of you who served. Bob, great call, and thank you so much. 617-266-6868. Okay. Well, it's just past 8 o'clock, but, 8-ish on Friday. You know what that means, huh? Kuhner's Call Log. Caller of the Week.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Bob.
This isn't the insurrection. The insurrection began when they stole the election from President Trump, and then we watched our country be invaded, and our side did nothing. We sat back. We kept being quiet. We watched city after city, state after state get invaded, and we never had one such rally to oppose the invasion. And yet now all of a sudden we're surprised at what's going on here. President Trump can't do this by himself. We, the people, have to help him. The people that elected him, that wasn't a done deal. I mean, we have to go to the street. We have to start confronting these people. Silence is compliance. If we just keep our mouth shut and let them do what they want to do, this is going to continue and continue. We, the people, have to support President Trump as well. I mean, he's, as he always has been, he's in a damned if he does, damned if he doesn't predicament. This isn't going to change. I mean, we allowed these people in here. They're never going to get these people out of here. And in 20 years, it's going to be 50 million of them because they're going to multiply. Our country's going to be gone. It's really going to be gone.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. 8:04 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, super quick as the lines are completely loaded. Tomorrow, as you know, is the so-called No Kings, No Crowns protest. That's what they're officially calling it. It's going to be all over the country, not just in Massachusetts, everywhere. Washington, D.C., in Boston, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, L.A., Dallas, you name it, Seattle, Portland, Milwaukee. It's going to be Cleveland. I mean, just everywhere. And is it going to be violent? That's the key. And will you start to see now Iranian flags? Because now the enemy of the United States has an opening with this war between Israel and Iran. And I'm going to be looking for how many of them are going to start waving Iranian flags, standing in solidarity with the mullahs, opposing Israel, as many of them did on college campuses when they backed the Palestinians. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow. And my prediction, you can hold me to it, you're going to see how many of these traitors, how many of these anti-American, anti-Trump far leftists are going to openly embrace the Islamo-Nazis in Tehran. They're going to be rooting for the Iranians. They're going to be rooting for the mullahs. And that's my fear. With sanctuary states and sanctuary cities where Hezbollah can operate in the dark, in the shadows, my God. And that's why I'm hoping that the FBI is all over this. I'm hoping our intelligence people are all over this, and that they disrupt these networks before it's too late. 617-266-6868, because the last thing I want is for Americans to die because of what's happening over there. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Ken in Waltham. Thanks for holding, Ken, and welcome.
Well, hi, Jeff. I think sort of the summary of listening to you and all the callers is that Netanyahu figures the risk of, as high risk as this attack is, the risk of doing nothing at this point is worse. Thus, he attacked now. I think it's also, I think what Trump has done very wisely so far is to say, the United States had nothing to do with this, Iran is going to have their hands full with Israel. And I think Trump's message, if I were in Iran, I'd be thinking, maybe we shouldn't mess with the United States. Let's keep them out of it because we have so many problems with, Israel already. Why bring the U.S. into it any more than we have to? Now, this may or may not work, what Trump is doing, but I think it's the wisest thing for him to say at this point.
Ken, if you had Trump's ear, because there's a battle now, and there always is, but there's always like a pull in any administration. You have certain camps. And if you're advising him now, there are some that are saying we should be allying ourselves more with Israel. And not just as a show of support, but ally with them to the point, let's go into Tehran and topple the mullahs once and for all. In other words, Israel is softening them up, and they're so dismantling Iran's military and nuclear capabilities. This regime is teetering. Let's deliver the final blow and overthrow the mullahs once and for all. Would you advocate for regime change, or would you be with others who are saying basically what Trump is doing now? In other words, we just want to end their nuclear program, offer them that diplomatic exit, that escape hatch if they want. If you want the bombing to stop, just come to the table. What would you advise him right now? Stick to diplomacy or go for regime change?
I think, I would advise stick with diplomacy, but I'm not sure that's right. Of the two choices, it's so hard to tell. It's such an unpredictable area, and so I'm not sure. But at this point, I don't see any reason why we would have to go in at this moment. I say that with hesitation too. If I were in there, I'd be listening to what a lot of other smart people said, I think, before I'd say anything. It's such a hard place.
Well, yeah, and I think, Ken, what looms over everything, if we're all being honest now, is Iraq and Afghanistan to a lesser extent, but especially Iraq, because they sold us the war. It was going to be a cakewalk. We're just going to walk into Baghdad, overthrow Saddam, and there'll be democracy and peace. And instead it turned into a long, protracted nightmare. It was just one long, guerrilla war. And so the fear is, if we march into Iran in solidarity or in alliance with Israel, are we going to have remember, Iraq is 23 million. Iran is 70 million. And they have a much more impressive Air Force, Navy, a military than Iraq ever had. They've also got a lot of oil. They've got a lot of allies, proxies. Their reach is bigger. I'm not saying we can't beat Iran. Of course we can. But their reach is much bigger and longer than Iraq's ever was. So, just Hezbollah alone here in America could do damage in a way that Iraq never could. Right? I'm just giving that as an example. So I think what looms over all of this is Iraq. And I think that's why so many Americans are with you, Ken. Let's not repeat that again. Let Israel do what it's got to do. And Trump is holding out this diplomatic olive branch and saying publicly we had nothing to do with this, and leave it up to the Iranian people and to the mullahs. And right now, if they were smart, they'd sit down with Trump. They should be sitting down with him right now. But because it's not just their nuclear program that's going up in smoke. They're destroying their military leadership, their oil refineries. They're taking apart Iran's military, their Revolutionary Guard Corps, piece by piece by piece. Israel and Iran are now at war. 8:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Israel now says that the bombing campaign that they launched last night and will continue for at least the next 2 weeks is intended now to utterly destroy not just Iran's nuclear program completely, but to utterly obliterate Iran's military leadership. They have already assassinated and taken out most of Iran's nuclear scientists. The leader of the Iranian National Guard Corps is dead. Their top generals, many of them are now dead. Iran is scrambling to respond, and they are vowing fire and fury. 617-266-6868. This is from Larry on Messenger. And I don't know if you remember this. This was one of the most iconic videos that went viral during the Biden years, where everybody was just pouring in across the border. And if you remember, there was someone from the Middle East. And you remember what he said? You don't know who I am? Well, soon you're going to know who I am. Well, here's what Larry wrote. Jeff, I'm having flashbacks of that Middle Eastern POS at the border claiming, quote, you don't know my name, but soon everyone will. See, that's what's going to keep me up at night all weekend. It's the people that the terrorists that Biden let in, the jihadists that Biden let in, the Hezbollah sleeper cells that Biden let in. Because now that Israel and Iran are at war, and Iran and Hezbollah, their big proxy terrorist army, have both come out and said, we are at war with America. We blame America for what Israel is doing now to Tehran and other cities. Look, you're dealing with people whose mindset is in the 7th century. These are Islamic fascist Nazis, Islamist fundamentalists. They don't think like you. They don't think like us. And God knows. I mean, it's irrational for them to strike out at the United States because, as previous callers have said, they got their hands full with Israel already. But that's not how they think. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lines are jammed. Jerry on Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, Jerry, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning. You brought me back when you were talking about 1979. But I want to ask you a question, Jeff. If someone's a fanatic, are you going to be able to reason with them?
No.
You're not going to be able to reason with the mullahs or the Ayatollah. The only way the Persian people are going to be free is if the Ayatollah and the mullahs are eliminated. And they may need help doing it. But, Jeff, my big fear, and I don't want to frighten anybody, but my real big fear is that Hezbollah, Iran and Hezbollah have already declared war on us. So whether we like it or not, we're in this. Whether we like it or not, we're in this. We're tied into this. But my big fear is someone from Hezbollah or someone who's sympathetic to their cause works at a medical facility, and I'm worried that they're going to collect radioactive material from like a medical facility and just ignite a dirty bomb. Do it in specific locations all over the country, Jeff. That's my big fear in this, and contaminate the whole country with radioactive material. That's my big fear, Jeff.
Oh, Jerry, look, the scenarios are endless. You're right. Look, they could poison our water supply. How many times have there been reports about these terrorists, monitoring and scoping out our water supplies? God knows what they have planned. Or, shooting up a mall or, a blow. Tomorrow, there's these huge protests all over the country. Our law enforcement's going to be stretched thin. I mean, if they want to, just even a pressure cooker bomb, like they did at the Boston Marathon bombing, whatever, they can blow up, and kill God knows how many people. So that's why this is, that's why the whole country's on pins and needles. You can feel it. I can feel it from the audience. People are nervous. They have a right to be nervous. And look, I hope that Israel is being as successful as the reports are claiming. I mean, I don't have any reason to disbelieve them, But so far, it appears to be an absolutely stunning success. And Mossad apparently is inside inside Iran. They smuggled in, already some of the information coming out is incredible. They smuggled in these dangerous explosive drones, guided weapon systems. They were able to track many of these scientists and top generals, so they knew exactly where they live or where their bunkers were. And that was able to help the Israeli military and these Israeli missiles and Air Force and their jets, their fighter jets, to just drop these bunker busters precisely at the right location. So I got to say, so far, I mean, this is turning into one of the most impressive military operations in modern history. But wars have a way of going sideways. I mean, you know that better than anybody, Jerry. So, and Bibi saying this is going to go on for at least 2 weeks. When he said 2 weeks, that means he's looking to deliver a knockout blow. This is going to be relentless bombing, day and night, day and night. And Iran is going to respond. The question now is how and where. Jerry, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. I'm just curious because I want to hear all sides in this debate. Is there anyone out there that disagrees with what Israel has done? That says Israel should have waited, that they should not have pulled the proverbial trigger and let these talks go on longer between Trump and the Ayatollahs? I'm just curious. Is there any out there that is critical of Bibi or Israel for having launched these airstrikes and missile strikes on Iran's nuclear military facilities?
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat.
Bibi Netanyahu in the middle of the night, actually, addressing, in this case, speaking in English, addressing the American people in the world about Operation Rising Lion. Israel has now launched wave after wave after wave of absolutely crippling, devastating airstrikes, drone strikes, and even assassinations within Iran to completely destroy and degrade their nuclear weapons program. Iran now says they are at war. So we now have a major Middle East war on our hands. And the question now is, can we prevent it from spreading and sucking in or dragging in the United States? 8:34 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. I got to be brutally honest with you, like I'm in the confessional. If you sense calm in the Kuhner man's voice, and I am calm, to me, I'm thanking the Lord that Donald Trump is president. I think he's the man of the hour. I think if there's anything that's going to happen within the United States or to our troops or bases around the Middle East, he is going to give it his full undivided attention. He has our back. He has our military's back. And I'm sure, in fact, I know that through back channels, he has told the Iranian mullahs, if you touch a hair on any American's head, you will live to regret it. Whatever you do, don't launch a terrorist attack on any American base or diplomatic personnel, or especially here at home, because there'll be nothing left of Iran. So Trump has really told the Iranians to back off, and I think they've registered the message. I don't think they don't want to deal with Bibi, never mind with Trump. So to me, he's the right man to be commander-in-chief. We need strength. We need deterrence. We need confidence. We need calm. We need composure. And that's what Donald Trump is delivering. Now, just to be fair, there's about, it's a minority. It's not a majority, but there's about, I would say, maybe 20% of you of Kuhner Country listeners. You've been texting, emailing me. You're not happy with this strike by Israel. In fact, you're really unhappy with it. So I always want to be fair to, want to give all voices a chance to speak on the show. So let me just read one text, which I think summarizes pretty much what some of you feel about this. This is from 781. Jeff, I voted for Donald Trump 3 times. I love him. But on this one, I strongly disagree with him, and especially with Bibi Netanyahu. As Colonel Douglas McGregor has pointed out, forgive me, I just lost myself here. Okay, as Colonel Douglas McGregor has pointed out, Trump took a lot of campaign money from extremely wealthy pro-Israel Zionists like the wife of Sheldon Adelson. In many ways, they own Trump. And their number one condition, give Israel and Bibi everything that it wants. And Bibi now has wanted the United States to get dragged into a war against Iran for decades. He's now attacking Iran, knowing full well that this would, A, sabotage the peace negotiations between Trump and Tehran, and B, it will inevitably drag in the United States. When our personnel abroad are attacked, or if there's a terrorist attack at home, what will Trump do? He will have no choice but to now openly side with Israel, and we will be at war with Iran. And that's what Bibi and the Zionists around him have always wanted. So, my question to you in the wake of 781, do you feel that Bibi Netanyahu has sabotaged Trump's peace talks or nuclear talks with the mullahs? And do you believe that he should not have allowed Bibi to attack Iran? Because ultimately, according to some of you, this is what the Likud party, Bibi, and Israel wants. A war with Iran that ultimately they start, but we have to fight and finish. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. George in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Thank you for taking the call.
My pleasure, George.
Yeah, I mean, the way I'm looking at this whole thing is that Russia's tied up with Ukraine, so the BRICS nations are all tied up. This might be our only opportunity, our last opportunity to be involved. And I agreed with Alan that called in from New Hampshire. Also, it's in terms of approaching it from a financial war. I mean, that's how we really should be fighting these. Using our ISR and banking system to go after these regimes. I do agree. I love McGregor, and I listen to him when I can. But I would ask McGregor, would the world be better off if Iran was not a top power and put out terrorism? And again, I mean, I don't know where to stand. I mean, this is the information that we're told. Are all the facts correct? You know what I mean? So, everybody's skeptical, especially after Afghanistan and Iraq. So, I understand the skepticism, but if we could eliminate a threat that basically on us, this would be the time to do it in my eyes, especially with like I said, we have China. Also, we're fighting China at the same time. So maybe that's what the geopolitical thought is from the White House and the State Department and the CIA and all those acronyms out there. But I'm open-minded enough. I feel as though to hear all sides, and the last thing I want to see is death and destruction. But we are a republic, and I'm on a republic. I'm a fan of republics, not theocracies. And this our place in the world is fallen, and we're not going to be the sole superpower. And if this was our last opportunity to address the issue, this would be a great time to do it, because in time there are going to be other regimes out there that don't have our interests and the world's interests at heart. So, I mean... Well,
George, look, I hear you completely, and I think you're summing up what many in the audience are thinking. Many in the audience are skeptical in terms of the information that comes out now because of Iraq, because of Afghanistan, because of the deep state, because of all the lies that we've been told over and over again. I think what is to me clear is, and I think there's no disputing this, that the mullahs in Tehran have killed thousands of American troops over the years. Just look what they did to us in Iraq, how they funded and armed these suicide bombers that killed and maimed countless American soldiers. They've been behind all kinds of terrorist acts all over the world. They have penetrated our southern border. I mean, that's just a fact. Would the world or any civilized country be able to live with a nuclear-armed Iran? With the mullahs holding the nuclear bomb? I think the answer is no. To me, there's no way. With the way these fanatics talk and what they talk about their prophecy and with their lack of respect for human life completely and their belief in Armageddon and the end of days, no, there's no way in hell these people should be allowed to have the bomb. So if Israel can take them out, take them out. To me, my problem, that's where I disagree with some people. They're like, well, I blame Bibi. I don't blame Bibi. If I'm in Tel Aviv or I'm in Jerusalem and you've got Iran weak as they are now, Russia tied up, China now fighting a trade war with us, I'm like, guys, it's now or never. 8:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. 70470. This is from 508. Jeff, with all due respect, F you to the mullahs. Israel will win, and so will we. So many of you are backing Israel, obviously, and saying that Israel ultimately is going to prevail. I got to say, if you just look at the first night of bombing, holy shamoly. I mean, you want to talk about catching Iran with their guard down. They have really hit them, and I mean given them a body blow. So it's going to go on, Operation Rising Lion, as it's called. And Netanyahu and Israel's military have said this is not a 3-4 day operation. This is going to be for 2 weeks nonstop, where they are going to keep pounding and pounding and pounding from the air, using drones, using fighter jets, missile strikes. But Mossad is very active within Iran, conducting assassination campaigns, and they say they are going to utterly obliterate Iran's military capability, its nuclear facilities, and its entire military leadership. So Israel, this is not just, what they did in the 80s. Occasionally they'd strike, say, in Iraq. They would hit one of these nuclear facilities, and it would be a couple of airstrikes and they're done. No, this is a massive war, and Israel believes it has the firepower to beat Iran from the air. 617-266-6868. Lines are blazing. Andrea on the South Shore. Thanks for holding, Andrea, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Well, I'm calling this morning because I'm Jewish. I'm a Zionist, and you read a text from somebody who used the word Zionist 3 times. I'm going to say this so everyone in your audience understands this. If you think Israel has a right to exist, you're a Zionist. If you think Israel does not have a right to exist, you're an anti-Semite and you want all Jews dead. Now, let me take it farther. We live in a modern world today. In my own very small family, on one side, I have 4 men who married non-Jews. Guess what, my Christian friends? You're in it. Do you have a Jewish person in your family through marriage? Do you have a Jewish neighbor, Jewish friend? Trust me, everybody is intermarrying today, and every country deserves a homeland. The Palestinians never were a separate people with a separate homeland, okay? They were thrown out of a lot of countries by other Arab countries. People don't learn history. Jeff, you're a historian. You're a professor. Teach people the history of Palestinians, and that it's all made up, and it's all being foisted on the Jews. There's this Secure Communities organization that came out today and gave a warning to Jews. And are we not already seeing the anti-Semitism in this country? You think it's not going to get worse? I'm an American first. I was born here. My parents were born here. My grandparents immigrated from what was then Russia. I'm an American, but I'm a Jew. And if one day I can't live in the United States, like people in Canada and England and France, Jews are all being so persecuted and so beaten down, thousands of them, tens of thousands are going to Israel. Where the heck do all you people think I'm going? Is Ireland going to take me? Is Sweden going to take me? Are the Netherlands going to take me? Is Germany going to take me? Hell no. So yes, I'm a Zionist. And I feel threatened today. And your audience needs to broaden. I'd love for the anti-Semites to come out and call you in the last hour. I really would. Anyway, that's enough of my blood pressure.
Well, Andrea, look, just to underscore what you're saying, and again, you touched on the anti-Semitism. This, to me, has always been the checkmate argument, and there's no rebuttal to this. How come, and I could go on and on, I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. How come the Cubans can have their own country? How come the Irish can have their own country? How come the Saudis can have their own country? How come the Japanese can have their own country? So every group can have their own country except the Jews? And notice, suddenly, if the Jews want their own homeland, which is their own country, their own independent state, Israel, you're quote-unquote a Zionist. Well, notice, they never say that you're a Cubanist or an Irishist or a Swedenist. It's so somehow the Jewish people wanting their own independent land, their own independent country and state is somehow so unusual, so offensive, so abhorrent. Well, why? Why can't the Jews have their own homeland? How come everybody else can have their own state, but the Jews can't? Every other people can have self-determination, but the Jews can't? So, and never mind the fact, I can get into the weeds here, but that Israel is the only democracy in the entire Middle East. It is literally the outpost of European and Western civilization in the Middle East, that they are surrounded by 300 million Muslims who want to wipe them off the face of the earth. And look, Andrea, just here, Grace texting. She will text me about stuff during the show in terms of, how's it going? And, does it sound well? But she rarely weighs in terms of, here's my opinion. Here's what Grace, this is what she texted me, 5 minutes ago. Okay. This is from my own wife, my personal text, my phone, on my text line, personal phone. Jeff, honestly, for years, the Iranians have threatened to obliterate Israel. And if they get the bomb, they will. Israel has no choice. Go, Israel, go. Rid this menace from the world. Israel will prevail, and so will we. And so, Israel is the only country that is surrounded by neighbors. Here, take these mullahs, these savages in Tehran. Every day, death to the Jews, death to Israel, and of course death to America. But routinely, we're going to wipe them off the face of the earth. The only good Jew is a dead Jew. We're going to kill them all. We'll obliterate them. We'll wipe them off the face of the map. So they keep telling you over and over and over and over that if they have the means to do it, 7 million Jews gone. In fact, after the Quran, people don't know this, in Iran, the number one selling book, this is after the Quran, the top selling book is Mein Kampf. Literally, Mein Kampf. And you talk to these crazed mullahs, I can give you quote after quote, the supreme leader, the president, the vice president, the foreign minister. What do you think of Hitler and the Holocaust? We're going to finish what they started. We're going to finish what they started. Now, they can't finish what Hitler started conventionally. Okay, they just can't. Now, to me, if you're 70 million people, I'm just going to be honest with you, Andrea, 70 million people sitting on liquid gold, which is what oil is, and you losers still can't beat the state of Israel because you guys are so freaking backward because of their Islamic fascism, okay? That to me is a damning indictment. But let that go, okay? Let that go. How 7 million Jews can continue to defeat and run circles around 300 million Muslims, to me says everything you need to know about which civilization is more advanced and which civilization is more backward. But again, let that go. But you get the bomb. Whoa, that's the one weapon that Iran can use, or anyone can use, but the mullahs in particular. It's a small neighborhood in the Middle East. Every country is very close together. You drop just one, literally just one. I don't care if it's Tel Aviv. I don't care if it's Haifa. I don't care if it's Jerusalem. And you're dead. Every Jew is finished, incinerated. And a lot of other Arabs and Muslims as well, but they don't care. That's collateral damage for them, okay, for the mullahs. So if I'm the leader of Israel, and my intelligence people are showing me now satellite picture after satellite picture and report after report from undercover agents that they have, from Mossad is running undercover agents in Iran. And they're telling me, no, they're very close now. No, they're getting nuclear fissile material. This is not for some civilian nuclear reactor. They are close to getting enough to put together a bomb. I'm like, guys, I'm not taking a chance. What are you, crazy? And give them the bomb? No way. No way. And Andrea, look, I know you know this, but the audience, and I think the world needs to know this. The Holocaust has so scarred the Jewish people. Okay, countries have characters. We have red lines as Americans. We do. The Irish have red lines. The Swedes have red lines. Countries are like people. They have distinct personalities. Israel and the Jewish people of Israel have been, whether we like it or not, it doesn't matter. They have been so scarred by the Holocaust that the one thing they tell you, man to a man and a woman, right, left, center, it doesn't matter. We're never going to go quietly into the gas ovens again. If it's a fight to the death, let it be a fight to the death. But if we go down, they go down. Now, what I mean by that, this is why the whole world is looking at this situation. If Iran gets the bomb and they drop it on Israel, Israel is not just going to stand there and say, okay, another 6-7 million dead, okay. They have 100 to 200 nuclear warheads, and they are going to wipe Iran off the face of the earth. So Israel may get wiped out, but Iran's going to get wiped out. And all the other countries and peoples in between are going to get wiped out as well. So what I'm saying is, if Iran gets the bomb, it's not just that it can trigger a Holocaust for the Jews of Israel. I'm telling you, whether we like it or not, it is going to trigger a Holocaust, a nuclear Holocaust, at best for the entire Middle East. And I don't know, when you have nukes flying like this, how this doesn't pollute the environment and kill people in Europe, kill people in Africa, and yes, kill people here in the United States. I mean, just look at Chernobyl. That was just a nuclear reactor meltdown. And people were feeling the effects all the way in Austria, in Hungary, in Switzerland. They had high rates of cancer for years and years and years. People were dropping dead from cancer. That's just from a little nuclear reactor meltdown. So what I'm saying, Andrea, is the mullahs played with fire for decades. And Israel kept warning them, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. It's their red line. Don't do it. Trump told them, don't do it. Again, the last 3 weeks, the guy every day, don't do it. I'm telling you, you want to do a deal with me. Don't go for the bomb. We're not, as Trump said, we will not accept Iran getting the bomb. He goes, do you understand? This is a non-negotiable, meaning we'll go to war if we have to. I'm not going to risk World War III in the Middle East because you crazy savages think you need a nuclear bomb. And that's where we are, Andrea. So, look, Bibi now knows this is his place in history. After everything he's been through, his entire career, his entire leadership, he is going to be judged now. Yes, the way he dealt with Hamas. Yes, the Palestinian issue. Yes, October 7. Yes, of course. Okay, all of that. But primarily now, did he avert a Holocaust for the Jewish people? When faced with the greatest existential crisis of the Israeli people since Adolf Hitler, what did the Prime Minister of Israel do? And I'm telling you, Bibi is saying, not on my watch. And I'm telling you, I hope our military is just taking notes, because this operation so far is like a finely tuned machine. I mean, they're taking out their scientists. They've taken out their top leadership. They're hitting every major facility. It doesn't matter how deep or how underground it is. They smuggled in these drones, these weapon-guided systems. They're targeting top people in the regime. I'm telling you, they may even take out the Ayatollah. They're dropping like flies. I mean, if I'm general after all their top generals dead, and we're not even 24 hours into the war. So, just as a military operation, I'm like, wow. I'm like, really, I got to tip my hat to you, man. Really, if I'm sitting around at West Point, okay, with our military leaders, whatever they're doing in Israel, whatever they're drinking, give a case to everybody here. Because we got to do what they're doing. Like this, I mean, this is a thing of beauty, just from a military standpoint. Now, we got 2 weeks to go. War's unpredictable. You never know. Israel now is in a state of emergency. Bibi has addressed the country. They're on very, very high alert, not just for drones and missiles, but also for terrorist attacks from Hezbollah and Hamas and other terrorist proxies. So we still got a long way to go. But right now, Bibi Netanyahu, if I'm sitting in Israel, all I'm saying is go, Bibi, go. Andrea, final word to you.
Jeff, Americans need to understand that a Zionist who's an American, that doesn't mean that we want to be dragged into a war. Look, I have grandchildren. You think I want them to have to go and fight? No, I lost two uncles in World War II. But people need to understand, it's more the anti-Semitism, Jeff, and you don't feel it if you're not Jewish. But trust me, if you're Jewish and people know it, you're feeling it. But let me go back and say one more thing. Jesus was Jewish, and what does that tell us? Jews were living in that area. It's the ancestral homeland. Archaeologists will tell you that. I'm so sick and tired of hearing people talk about who the indigenous people of whoever and where they are. All Jews want is to be left alone. The medical progress all the different things that Jews have done, and they share with the world for crying out loud. Leave them alone. Let us do what we do. We help everybody. We believe that that's what we're supposed to do. And all everybody wants is to see us all dead. And no, never again. Trust me, if you're Jewish, make sure you know how to defend and protect yourself. But if you're Jewish, be proud and be out there. Because if you're not, you're part of the problem. And whoever is listening today who might know me, they probably think I'm out of my mind today, or they might put a bounty on me, whatever. I'm proud, and I'm not going to let you keep me down because I'm Jewish. So, Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have a great weekend, and thank you to Grace.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I really appreciate it. Very good call. Outstanding call. Well, look, just a final exclamation point on everything you said. You said, Jesus was Jewish. I thought you were going to say, and look what happened to him. They crucified him. Look what happened to him. So that's the history of the Jews. They're often persecuted and crucified. And Bibi's saying, no, you want a nuclear crucifixion of Israel? You're not going to get it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. Eddie in Charlestown. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Hello, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Eddie.
I just wanted a couple of things. I support what's going on. You can't trust these people. They've been negotiating. What they were doing was Stalin until they got the nuclear weapon, and they were going to use it. You can't trust them. Israel has to go in. Good for them. They hit them hard. They have to finish the job and complete the job and get it done and over with for good. You mentioned the Korean or whatever they call their Bible. It's
the Quran. The Quran.
Because they're a bunch of kids. It's in there. If you're an infidel, it's death to infidels. We're all infidels. Jewish, Christians. That's what their main goal is, to take everybody out that's an infidel, okay? Now, I'm sure, me being in the military, our military's on high alert right now. My advice to every American out there now, listening in their homes, going out, you have to be on high alert. Every time you walk out that door, you have to be on the defense. You have to be well aware of your surroundings. You have to be aware of who's there, because these attacks are going to come out. You have to be on the defense. And then when these attacks come out, you have to be on the offense, because it's an all-out war on the streets. As far as I'm concerned, they already brought us into this war when they made that attack in Colorado. They attacked the Jewish people. They attacked the American people. They attacked it on American soil. They already brought us into this war. It's a war that it's going to continue on until we have to eliminate those people. I know there's good people in Iran that support America. Hopefully they'll have enough, like you said early in the show, that they have a revolution.
Bingo. No, and Eddie, you really put your finger on it. Look, I think this is now maybe the golden opportunity, with the regime now buckling, teetering on the ropes, getting smashed almost by the hour, that the Iranian people, that's what I'm praying for, say, you know what? We can get rid of the mullahs. Let's do it now. Okay, my friends, we're on the cusp now of history. The attacks are really, really successful. This could be the beginning of the end of the Iranian mullah regime. We shall see. But this Islamist republic that has haunted the region, haunted the world ever since 1979, holy mackerel. They are taking a beating right now from the Israeli military and the Israeli Air Force. Okay, 9:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. Okay, developments fast and furious. Let me keep you all up to date. President Trump now has given his most up-to-date comments so far. Trump was asked in a brief phone interview, this was with the Wall Street Journal, did Bibi Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, did he give President Trump a heads up? Here is what Trump said, quote, heads up, question mark? It wasn't a heads up. It was, we know what's going on. So he said that he was informed. He knew every step of the way what Israel was going to do. Israel had made its decision on Monday, so just a couple days ago, to launch the strike our time last night, but they're ahead over there in the Middle East, but basically Friday. So to launch the attack Friday, he says that he spoke to Bibi Netanyahu yesterday, that he plans to speak with him again on Friday, today. He has called the operation, quote unquote, a very successful attack, to put it mildly. Now, this is very important. He then went on to say, this is Trump, I told the other side, i.e. Iran, the Iranians, I said, you have 60 days to make the deal. On the 61st day, Israel attacked. Today is 61 days, actually, and it was a very successful attack. Trump went on to say about the Iranians, they should have made a deal. And he says they still can make a deal while they have something left. They still can. Now, he was asked about the effects on the stock markets, on oil, the global price of oil, and on markets in general. The fear is if this war really escalates, could it trigger a recession, a global recession, even a recession here? Here is what Trump said, quote, I think ultimately it would be great for the market because Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. It will be great for the market. Should be the greatest thing ever for the market. Iran won't have a nuclear weapon that was a great threat to humanity. So, essentially, Trump is clearly blessing the operation. And again, I love his candor and his honesty. He goes, look, 2 months ago, I told them, guys, you got 60, to the mullahs, you got 60 days. I'm not messing around. Bibi's not messing around. So you got 60 days for your interest, your self-interest, cut a deal, because the alternative is going to be much worse. Day 61, boom, the Israeli IDF and the Israeli Air Force have now hit Iran with wave after wave of devastating strikes. Now, one last point, and then I want to go to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. It now appears that Israel, again, it was brilliant from conception to execution so far. But what Israel did in particular was that they used the cover of the negotiations. It's not that Trump was negotiating in bad faith. Trump clearly wanted a deal. In fact, Netanyahu wanted to go even earlier. And Trump said, no, wait, Bibi, I gave the Iranians 60 days. I'm a man of my word. So let's give them 60 days. So apparently Trump had called off earlier desires by Bibi to launch this all-out attack. And he said, I promised them 60 days. Let's do 60. So what Israel did was they used the negotiations as cover. So while Trump and his negotiators are trying to hammer out a nuclear deal with the Iranians are thinking the whole time, well, I mean, the Americans are fully engaged. No one's going to hit us while we're negotiating. And so that lulled them into a false sense of security. Tehran let its guard down. And as it let its guard down, Israel was probing and probing. Apparently they were sneaking in even more weapons into Iran, more drones. And day 61, the day right after day 60, they have now hit him with one of the most devastating attacks so far in modern military history. 617-266-6868. What do you make of Israel's airstrikes and this war now with Iran? Do you support Israel? And do you fear blowback against the United States? I'm just curious. 617-266-6868. Richard in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Richard, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Richard.
I find this whole thing quite disturbing. This business of not criticizing Israel as being some sort of out of bounds thing is just really not a good thing. Israel's not doing a very good thing here, in my purview of historical events. I mean, I could get into it very deeply, but I don't want to argue with you.
Well, Richard, I'll tell you what. Look, I don't want to turn this into a half-an-hour seminar, right? But you're representing a view that I know many of my audience have. So get to the essence of the matter. Why? Why do you think Israel is in the wrong and that they shouldn't be doing this? Go.
Well, Israel has been found to be guilty of espionage against the United States in the past. It's the most advanced army, military in the world because of this espionage activity with the United States. They have developed weaponry. They are a product of Bibi Netanyahu. This whole business that they're doing is all to start a World War III. They want to start World War III. Iran is China. China is their biggest supporter and ally.
Richard, can you please hang on? It's not that I don't want to let you finish your point. Quite the opposite. I'm literally up against a break. Please hang on. I'm going to come right back to Richard. So Richard says Israel is in the wrong and they should not have attacked Iran. More next. WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we're going to go right back to Richard in New Hampshire, but first, joining us now, as she always does at this time, the co-founder, CEO, president of Kelly Financial Services, and yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. I think we can all agree prices have been high for a while now. Gas, groceries, healthcare, utilities, and it looks like it's going to take some time before we see them come back down. For retirees and those preparing to retire, this can quietly eat away at your savings if you don't have a plan in place. Today, I'm offering our free investor guide, Inflation and Your Retirement. Are you prepared for rising costs? It explains what this kind of stubborn inflation does to retirement income, and it offers 5 smart strategies to help protect what you've worked so hard to build. Don't let rising prices shrink your retirement. To request your free guide or to schedule a conversation with one of our Kelly advisors, give us a call or email kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I will continue this conversation with our Kelly advisors tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or go to our website for our radio rewind. Jeff, happy Father's Day. I want to say thank you for being such a positive father figure to both Mary Madeline and William Jr. I am so grateful.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. God bless you. Please give my best to Mary Madeline, William. We're going to see each other soon. And have yourself a wonderful weekend, Kelly. Thank you so much. Again, if you want to get a copy of their free guide, it's called Retire Your Fear, Plan Your Future. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881. Or if you prefer, you can email Kelly herself, and she's just very quick to respond. Kelly@kellyfinancial.org, Kelly@kellyfinancial.org. All right, let's go right back to Richard in New Hampshire. Richard, so you're saying that you think Israel is in the wrong, that ultimately what they want, they've been spying on the United States, stealing some of our best military technology. They now have the most advanced military in the world, as you said, and that ultimately the goal of Bibi Netanyahu and his supporters is World War III. Richard, please pick up where you left off.
Respectively and respectfully, Jeff. The whole thing that happened in September was a Mossad operation. You're going to tell me that they fooled the most advanced military with some hang gliders and murdered so many people. It was
Sorry, you mean October 7th, you mean?
Yeah, this last fall. This whole thing is Trump warring against China. We are at war with China. This is the beginning. This is the flashpoint. We are in a war with China. World War III has already begun, and your listeners need to know this. And the red heifer and the temple is already in production, and the red heifer is there if you know anything about biblical prophecy and the Talmud. And this whole thing is blowing out of proportion. I recommend all of your listeners pay attention to what's going on. This stupid protest this weekend is all designed to get us all off take our eye off the ball. Because if you're willing, as Saul said, if you're not willing to defend decency and civilization with force, then you're going to have to deal with the barbarism that's coming your way. We need to take these matters in hand with these people. Trump is not in the right here, dealing with China and what's going on here. It's a very, very, very dire and serious situation. And
okay, no, Richard, I want to ask you two questions. Two questions, and please, if you can, keep your answers as brief as possible. Number one, you said that the Israelis want World War III. Why would the Israelis want World War III? And number two, Iran, they're on the verge of a nuclear weapon. I'm just curious, if you're Israel, what do? Would you just allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon and say we have to live with a nuke? I just want to flush out your position. Go.
Iran already has the nuclear weapon. China has it, and China has their back. So far as like Israel wanting World War III, they want World War III because they want this whole their Messiah to come to being, so that their prophecy can be fulfilled with the whole rebuilding of the temple and the red heifer and all of that stuff that they're all about. Okay.
So you think the religious fanatics here are the Israelis? I just want to flush it out here, Richard. Not the mullahs in Tehran. It's Netanyahu and I guess what do you want to call them, the Jewish Zionists or the Orthodox Jews or the religious Jews that support him, that they're the ones who want to bring about the end of days, correct? Is that what you're saying?
It's on both sides of this. There's fanatics in Israel, and there's fanatics in the Muslim communities. They're at war. They're being played like pawns by these powers that be that run this world. That's what's going on.
Okay, but Richard, just to end this, so you're saying that you believe that Israel wants to start World War III. That's why they're attacking Iran, correct?
I think that Israel wants to start World War III, and China wants to start World War III to take over in a new dynasty.
Okay, but Richard, if we go to World War III, it's going to be nuclear. Yes. So no one's taking over anything.
Oh, well, China doesn't believe that because China's huge. And they have done this for centuries and centuries and centuries.
So you're saying they're willing to, sacrifice hundreds and hundreds of millions of people to eventually dominate the world, correct?
Look at what Mao did, for gosh sakes.
No. I mean, you don't need to be defensive. I want to get your full position out. I want to be fair to you.
Murder a good 2/3 of the world's population, and so does Israel. It's so they can be dominant. Let's be real. The Jews, this business of Israel being God's chosen people, not many Jews still exist, because most of the Jews are from the Khazarians of Russia that were adopted the Jewish faith in the 5th century under the Ottoman Empire. You know this.
No, but Richard, I just want to. So you're saying that ultimately Israel wants World War III because the Jews want to dominate the world. Is that what you're ultimately saying?
They're at
over
war with
the
each other
ash
for
heap. They will rule. Is that what it is? Richard, yes?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Richard, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Richard. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think that's insane. With all due respect to Richard, I mean that Israel wants World War III so that they could rule over the ash heap of the world, and this is a secret plot for Jewish global domination. No. No. I mean, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Like, it's not, I don't think this doesn't sound rational or logical to me. Frankly, it sounds outlandish. But, I don't know what to tell you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mark in Connecticut. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning. Yeah, sounds like somebody's off their meds. I think Iran should have been dealt with many.
Mike, I mean, for God's sake, man, could you learn just a little flexibility? Just a little bit, Mike. Really, I think, you would get along with the mullahs really good, Mike. I got to tell you. I'm just saying. Mark, please hang on. I'm up against a hard break. I'm going to come right back to you. 48 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868. All right, let's go right back to Mark in Connecticut. So, Mark, you were saying the previous caller, Richard, is off his meds. Essentially, he's crazy. And then you were going on about the threat that Iran poses, not just to Israel, but to the United States and to the world. Please, Mark, pick up where you left off.
And not only Jews, but Christians or Buddhas or, all Hindus, the whole world. And these people are fixated on, ending the world. Because they think, 12 horsemen are going to ride in? And, I mean, come on. These people have to be dealt with now. And as far as Trump saying there's still time to make a deal, no, there isn't. Take care of them now. And God knows the Iranian people are great people. And it's not them. But we got to kill the Muslim, mullahs. And this has to end now. How many times before has America tied Bibi's hands and Israel's hands? Oh, don't attack them now. We're going to make a deal. No more. It's over. You're gone. I'm sick of this. I can't believe Trump said there's still time to make a deal. No, there isn't. Your time is over. Time for you to die. That's what it's time for.
Mark, I'm just curious because that's going to be the inevitable question some people will have for you. What about the blowback? Oh, yes, the mullahs, if they're gone, the world's a better place, no question. But they're not going to go down without a fight. And Biden let in many of them, these Hezbollah terrorists in, Islamic terrorists in, their sleeper cells. They're all over the region in the Middle East. If we go for the kill shot, or Bibi goes for the kill shot and we let him do it, that this could lead to blowback here, terrorist attacks in America, terrorist attacks on our soldiers or embassies or consulates around the Middle East. What say you?
This has to happen. Of course there's going to be blowback, but this has to happen. This has to end. If we're going to get our hands bloodied, we're going to get our nose bloodied, I hate this. I mean, people are going to die. I mean, this has to happen. There's no way around it. We got to end this nonsense with these people funding all these terrorists and all the death and destruction they bring, and saying, "Oh well, we'll make a deal with not make a nuclear bomb." BS. You're not. You people are a bunch of consummate liars. We might get hurt in one way or another, but this has to end. And I'm sorry to say it'd be cold like that and stuff and everything, but I'm a realist. This has to end. I know I said that before over and over again, and it's true. These people have to be taken out, no matter what the consequences. They have to be gone.
Mark, thank you very much for that call, and have a great weekend. Let's go to Bob in Plymouth. Bob, thanks for holding, and welcome.
Well, that guy said exactly what I wanted to say. Exactly.
You know, it's funny. Grace is texting me on my phone, on my personal phone, and she's like, Mark is saying exactly what I'm thinking. So, Mark, you got a fan club, my friend. Bob, please keep going.
Yeah, you know, in 1977, I was riding a bicycle to work at 35 years old because I couldn't get gas. But all that stuff is in the past. What we need to do is change the future. That's why I predict once we start slamming Iran, and I mean us involved in it also, that all of these members of the military in Iran, they'll start putting their weapons down because they're being forced to do this nonsense, as far as I'm concerned. Not every one of them, but a lot of them are being forced. What say you?
That's interesting. So, Bob, you're saying if we literally formed a military alliance and joined Israel in this attack on Iran, that the combined overwhelming might of both the United States and Israel would bear down so much pressure on the mullahs that they would see massive defections, not just from people in the regime, but from the military. In other words, we can't win. We hate the mullahs anyway. We'll either drop our guns or we'll turn our guns on the leadership, correct?
Absolutely.
You know, you may be right. I mean, to me, I think Trump wants no part of this. I think Trump is more, you know, again, I want a deal. You want a deal? Here it is. If not, let Bibi do the heavy lifting here. I think one of the reasons is, remember, Trump campaigned on ending endless wars. It's going to be politically very hard for him now to participate in a war. I'm not saying it can't be done, but look at it from many of his supporters. They'll say, whoa, 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 whoa. You criticized the war in Iraq. You criticized the war in Afghanistan. Now you're going to get us involved in a war in Iran? I don't know, Bob, if politically Trump can sell it. But look, Bob, nothing would make me happier than for this disgusting Islamo-Nazi regime to fall and the mullahs to be swept into the dustbin of history. So, believe me, I hope the mullahs fall. Bob, thank you for that call. Can I squeeze in Skippy? All right, Skippy in South Boston. I've literally got 1 minute. I hate to do this to you. Go.
Yes, that Richard is full of crap. Listen, the Knesset in Israel, primarily their Congress, they're primarily secular Jews. They didn't go for this red heifer crap. That's the whole thing from the imams in Iran. They're hoping that the Grand Poobah is going to come out of nowhere. That's why they want to get the bomb to annihilate the Jews. The Jews are just looking for self-preservation from being annihilated. This is a bunch of crap being pushed around that we're trying to take over. They're going to take over the Jews, going to take over the world.
Well, you're right. And Skippy, look, I mean, Israel's a very secular country. You're right about the Knesset, but in general, I mean, yeah, there are Orthodox Jews. There's no question. There's a religious element there, but it's a heavily secular society. And think about it. They want to launch or have a nuclear war to rule the world? Well, what are you ruling over? Everything's been laid to waste with radiation. Like, they're not immune from radiation. So it just makes no sense. But hey, I gotta go. Bye-bye.